Do you want step-by-step guide to success in the GCSE Spanish speaking exam picture task? Then stick with me for the next 15 minutes and I promise you will have everything you need. So the overview for today's video, as always, we're going to start with the key vocab for the topic before we move on specifically to how to approach the picture task. This week I've chosen the topic of bringing the world together because it's generally a topic that students have had less practice on. So starting with our key vocab, these are the words that we have. Pause the video now to see how many of these you know, and then come back when you're ready for the answers. Okay, so las respuestas. Campaña is a campaign. Caridad, a charity. País is a country. Campo, I would say more countryside, not country. Medalla de oro is medal. Oro, gold, plata, silver, bronze. Los Juegos Olímpicos, Olympic Games. Tener el derecho a is to have the right to. You will recognize derecho from directions. El mundo is the world. Unir a la gente, to bring people together. Respeto, respect. Esperanza, hope. And you probably will recognize espero que. Guerra, war. La Copa Mundial, sometimes you can just say it as la Mundial, the World Cup, when it's linked to football. Comercio justo, fair trade. Por y contra, for or against. Campañas solidarias, so we saw earlier campaña is campaign, so campaña solidaria is a solidarity campaign, like a charity campaign, a campaign to support a purpose, a cause. El paro, unemployment. La pobreza, poverty. Amenazar, to threaten. Sobrevivir, to survive. And la paz is peace. Also, if you see that with a capital letter, La Paz is the capital of Bolivia. Okay, so if you didn't know loads of those, I wouldn't be too worried. It generally tends to be a topic. It comes right at the end of textbooks, so it's not one that people have seen quite as much. So don't worry if you weren't familiar with loads of those, but hopefully now you will be, and there will be the Quizlet set linked in the bio for you to practice with later. Okay, so these are the higher and foundation picture tasks on the topic of bringing the world together. So as you can see, even though the vocab that we just saw kind of covers a range of different topics, picture tasks on this topic generally tend to focus on sport and sporting events as something that brings people together. We are going to mix and match the bullet points that we will look at today. We'll do 5 in total, focusing on the ones that are the most specific, because the more specific the point, the more difficult it is to answer. So that means we will do, sorry, they come on too fast. We will do description of the photo for both. Then we'll do los equipos de fútbol mixtos from the higher. Then we will do un evento deportivo al que fuiste con tus amigos recientemente, also from higher because it's more specific. Then we will do deporte, planes futuros from foundation, and deporte en la televisión, opinión. And we know that on higher, 0.5 is an unexpected question, as you can see here with the exclamation mark. The first thing you should do when you get your photo is to work out which are the past and future tense bullet points. And so here the past tense clues are fuiste, any verb that ends in iste is in the past tense. Semana pasado, el fin de semana pasado, anytime we see pasado, we know it's the past. And recientemente, being recently. And we also have hiciste, also ending in iste, so anytime you see that, you know it's past tense. Our future tense clues are la semana que viene, a less common time phrase, but one that we should be able to recognize as future. Literally means the week that is coming. Planes also is a key clue that it's the future tense. And same on the other side, if we just, it was also planes futuros. Okay, so step 1 is the description. If you want a proper explanation of why I've chosen all of these 6 steps, then check out last week's video. But otherwise, remember that if you learn these structures, you really only have to make minimal adaptations when you see the picture in the exam. And you should even feel confident enough, hopefully, to improvise your description without having to write it down, which would therefore give you more time to write more for the harder bullet points during your prep time. The two boxes on the left-hand side are the 4 to 6 points for describing a photo with the language required. I'm going to show you now an example answer for each step, and you should try to translate it into English before the answer appears on the screen. So first one, en la foto hay 5 personas, creo que son amigos. 10 seconds. So in the photo, there are 5 people. I think they are friends. The creo que son amigos is something extra, but it's nice to speculate about who they are if you can. Step 2. Creo que están en España y están en un campo de fútbol. 10 seconds. I think that they are in Spain and they are on a football pitch. So you can always say creo que están en España. And then if you can add more detail, then do. And in this context, the detail would be un campo de fútbol. 3. Diría que están contentos porque están sonriendo. 10 seconds. I would say that they are happy because they are smiling. Again, a really easy one. Put a no in front of each of them if they don't look happy, and then you've got that covered. Doesn't matter what the photo is, that will generally be applicable. Step 4. Las personas llevan ropa de deporte. 5 seconds. The people are wearing sports clothes, so you can always change ropa de and then just add the correct noun at the end. Change it to ropa de calle, ropa de deporte, ropa de verano, whichever you want. Number 5. Pienso que esta foto fue sacada en verano porque hace buen tiempo. 10 seconds. I think this photo was taken in summer because the weather is good. And again, this one, you might need to change verano and buen, but otherwise it's pretty much universally applicable. And finally, las personas están jugando al fútbol. And that is the people are playing football. And remember we said last week, only do this if you are confident with using the present continuous tense, where you add está or están plus the verb. An AR verb ends in ando, an ER/IR verb ends in yendo, and that is for the are doing. If you aren't confident using that, then ignore step 6. Okay. So step 2 is opinions. Same thing here in terms of setup of the screen, but before we start, just a tip to remember that even if you're not quite sure what you're being asked to give an opinion on, you can still give a good opinion just by using the words from the question and inserting them into the structure. And I mean, obviously we want to understand as much as possible, but one of the pros of using this structure is that not understanding a word does not stop us from giving a good answer. Here, a key word that we may not know in the question is equipo, which means team, but we should be able to work out fútbol and mixto and go from there. If we know we're talking about mixed football, you could work it out even if you didn't know that equipo meant team. So, number 1, a mi juicio, los equipos de fútbol mixtos son importantes y justos. 10 seconds. In my judgment, mixed football teams are important and fair. Justo is a nice adjective to add in. Don't forget your adjectival agreement. Sin embargo, mi hermana dice que no es divertido. However, my sister says it's not fun. You could say no son divertidos to be more specific. Ella dice que es más difícil para una chica que para un chico. 10 seconds. She says that it's more difficult for a girl than for a boy. 4. Para mí, lo mejor, sorry for the typo, es que tengo más amigos que son chicos. 10 seconds. For me, the best thing is that I have more friends that are boys. I'm not trying to be stereotypical here, I'm just trying to think of simple phrases that I would expect any GCSE student to be able to use. And finally, the higher challenge. El fútbol es el mejor deporte del mundo y me gusta mucho jugar en equipos mixtos. 10 seconds. Football is the best sport in the world and I really like playing in mixed teams. Okay, so moving on now to the past tense. And remembering that fuiste and recientemente are our past tense clues, we should know that deporte means sport. So from that, we should be able to work out that deportivo, evento deportivo, is going to be an event linked to sport. Deportivo is just the adjective of deporte. This is a complex bullet point, so sometimes it works in your favor to just reword what's given to you in the bullet point. Here, don't try and do that, it's too complex. So just go straight in with a sentence starting with the time phrase in the past. So, el año pasado fui a un partido de la Copa de Europa con mis amigos. 10 seconds. Last year, I went to a Euros game with my friends. Partido is a useful word here. It means a match. La Copa, we saw La Copa Mundial in the vocab, so La Copa de Europa is just the Euros, the European Cup. Dos, me gustó mucho porque fue muy emocionante. 5 seconds. I liked it a lot because it was very exciting. And remember your pronunciation, this has to be me gustó. Make sure the stress is on the O. Sin embargo, según mi amigo, era demasiado ruidoso. However, according to my friend, it was too noisy. I'm using era here because I'm describing like the background, the match, the atmosphere, whatever, rather than just giving a straight up, I liked it because it was fun. It's like an opinion, a judgment. And number 4, lo mejor fue que vi a mi futbolista favorito. 10 seconds. The best thing was that I saw my favorite football player. So be should be a past tense verb that we are fairly confident with using. Futbolista is just how we say footballer. Even though it ends in an A, it is actually, well, it can be masculine or feminine, so we can just keep it favorito. Okay, and same again now for the future. And note here, we've said before in last week's video, an idiom is just a phrase that can't be translated directly into another language. So we've got I would have or I will have a good time, I can't wait, and it would be or it will be worth it. Remember also our conditional tense verbs end in ria. So the RIA in Spanish represents the word would in English. And we would like to keep consistency where we can. So if you're going to use me gustaría, then we use sería, pasaría, valdría, etc. Okay. Here we are talking about our future plans for sport. You could go either conditional or future tense here. Just remember, like we just said, keep it consistent. And I have gone for the conditional. So, en el futuro, si pudiera, me gustaría participar en los Juegos Olímpicos. 10 seconds. In the future, if I could, I would like to participate in the Olympics. Creo que sería inolvidable y una experiencia única. I think it would be unforgettable and a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, inolvidable, a really nice adjective. Una experiencia única, even nicer as well. No cabe duda de que lo pasaría bomba. There is no doubt that I would have an amazing time. No cabe duda de que, sorry, is a nice phrase to add in. And finally, you may want to start with this if you were going for the higher challenge. Siempre he soñado con ser una atleta profesional. Could also be un atleta, depending on who you are. I have always dreamed of being a professional athlete. Okay, so a really nice, there's so many tenses in there, some really nice turns of phrase, so a really good answer to that question. And finally, deporte en la televisión, opinión. So anyone taking higher will not know what this question is before your teacher asks you in the exam. But if you have the structure learned for giving opinions in general, it really just helps to take the pressure off the fact that this is an unexpected question. We now know deporte is sport. The rest of the question should be fairly clear. And remember here, like televisión, there's an accent missing, sorry, on the O. Any words in the question where you're not sure of the pronunciation, just listen carefully to how your teacher says it in their question to you, and then try and replicate that, okay? There's no sh, so not televisión or television, as some people like to say. Really try and get into your Spanish pronunciation mode. So step 1. Diría que ver deporte en la televisión es esencial. 5 seconds. I would say that watching sport on TV is essential. Step 2. Sin embargo, mi padre dice que es una pérdida de tiempo. However, my dad says that it's a waste of time. Pérdida de tiempo is a really nice adjective, turn of phrase to use. Creo que ver deporte en la televisión es tan importante como hacer deporte. 10 seconds, this is a bit trickier. I think that watching sport on TV is as important as doing sports. So it's a comparison, but it's not one we see a lot. Tan como, as. Lo mejor es que te inspira a ser más sano y también une a la gente. So some complex phrasing here. I'll go another 10 seconds. The best thing is that it inspires you to be more healthy, and it also brings people together. So 2 phrases there. If you like the sound of those, you think you could learn them, then I would just learn those. They would be applicable to more than just this topic. O te inspira a ser más, plus whatever adjective you want. And finally, cuando era menor no me gustaba ver deporte en la televisión, pero ahora me encanta. 10 seconds. When I was younger, I didn't used to like watching sport on TV, but now I love it. Okay, and again, we're getting another tense in there. We're using the imperfect past tense. It's a really easy set phrase to use it. So we've covered our bases with lots of tenses throughout this answer. Okay, so now it's over to you. You've seen a really good example answer following this structure. Now I want you to ideally, or come back to this at a different point, pause the video, set yourself a timer for either 8 minutes in total or do 5 sets of 1 minute 40 seconds and see how much of the structure grid you can include in your preparation for each bullet point. If you did last week's video and you're coming back to this week, then try to see how much can you do without the structure grid first. How much of it can you remember? By doing that, you're sort of training your memory a little bit more. And then come back once you have done that for some final tips at the end of the video. So good luck. Okay, so if you watched last week's video, again, this is just a recap. Here are the key, like a comprehensive list of the higher level phrases you should be using to help you hit all of the language marks for the picture task. Especially if you're doing higher, the language requirements are quite demanding for this, and this has you covered on pretty much every base you need. A lot of these are already included in the structure guide we've gone through in the video. But if you've just done the self-time practice, you could now go back through your answer to see where you could add in a couple more of these. And do let me know in the comments if you would like me to send you a copy of this alongside the structure guide to help you with your revision. Okay, and that's really it for today. Just a reminder, some final tips. You follow the structure guide, you're saving yourself time, you're gaining yourself more marks in the picture task. And really it's just about practicing using the structure guide, sticking to timings, both when practicing and also in your exam. Aim to improvise for the description to save yourself time writing during preparation so you can focus on the other bullet points. And make sure that when you're writing your answers in your prep, you number each bullet point so you know when to stop and let your teacher ask the next question. I will be back next week with another video to practice this for the speaking exam. But until then, you have the Quizlet link in the description, so practice the vocab that we saw at the start of the video. And don't forget to check out video 8 in the playlist, which is linked at the end of this video, should be on the screen now, which just gives you some top tips for memorizing your speaking questions. And buena suerte! See you next week.